What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show late on a Sunday night. I was seconds from going to bed. The CJ Gardner-Johnson news has dropped, and it's not good for Philadelphia Eagle fans. Really surprising numbers here. A one-year deal going over to the Detroit Lions. What is going on here? I think I understand. Let's break it down for you. Here we go. Adam Schefter has the tweet. This was literally 3 seconds ago. Former Eagles safety CJ Gardner-Johnson reached an agreement tonight with the Detroit Lions, per source. Top remaining defensive free agent is off the board. That's breaking news from Adam Schefter. And so originally I went, oh my gosh, how much did the Lions give him? They must have gave him an absolute bag. And you look on Twitter, and Tom Pelissero has this, quote, "The Lions are signing safety CJ Gardner-Johnson to a one-year, $8 million deal with $6.5 fully guaranteed for signing, per sources. His agent, Kevin Connor of Uni Sports Management, confirmed the deal, which reunites Gardner-Johnson, Dan Campbell, and Aaron Glenn," end quote, all of whom were together with the New Orleans Saints during CJ Gardner-Johnson's original time in New Orleans. Now, you're saying, Thomas, why couldn't Philadelphia pay $8 million in 1 year? Seriously, why couldn't they do it? Well, I have a guess, and honestly, I don't know. And my expectation is we're all going to kind of swallow this tonight. We're going to wake up tomorrow. We'll have a lot more news. A lot of the Eagle beat writers will get in here. There'll be some stuff leaked talking about how CJ Gardner-Johnson really didn't want to be an Eagle. I think he was disrespected by Philadelphia. Now, I'm not putting the blame on Howie Roseman. I'm putting the blame on the fact that the overall safety market wasn't that good. And we talked about this on a show a couple of days ago. Jesse Bates got $16.5 million. Next closest safety got $7.5. And CJ Gardner-Johnson wanted to be one of the highest paid safeties, not only in free agency this season, but in the entire National Football League. And I think Philadelphia realized he wasn't worth that. And so how I think this went down, and again, probably more news happening on this tomorrow, is that CJ originally wanted 15 to 14. Philadelphia came in at 7. CJ really felt disrespected by that initial offer. They tried to go back and forth, but once CJ was lowballed, or in terms of his eyes lowballed, because honestly, Philadelphia probably offered him about 1 year and $8 million. CJ originally getting lowballed, he's disrespected, and he says, you know what, screw these guys, I'm going to go ahead and move on and go play for a different football team, and he took probably the most expensive deal that he could find. This is not going to be a situation where Philly didn't have 1 year and $8 million with $6.5 guaranteed to pay him. I mean, clearly they have money. Clearly they've been able to work the cap. They're still waiting on restructuring some other contracts. They could have gotten this done if they wanted to. I feel like Philadelphia was making a big push. We saw those tweets from, Jeff McClain and Frank Clark or John Clark and all the rest of the Eagle insiders up there in Philadelphia. But this tells me CJ Gardner-Johnson felt disrespected and the bridge was burned and he wanted to go ahead and go somewhere else, and he lands at Detroit, which, if we're going to speak to Detroit here, just be honest, a good football team. They're one of the sneaky good NFC teams. Everyone talks about how Philadelphia is clearly still the best roster, and they are. And I know panic people are out there. In fact, Isaac Seumalo got signed by the Steelers, which we will talk about here in a second. But this, to me, screams great job by the Lions. And really, poor job by CJ Gardner-Johnson waiting to see if he wanted to stay in Philadelphia, because I think he got lowballed and I think he got a little bit disrespected from that. Now, you're probably asking me, Thomas, who are the available safeties to go replace him with? Because right now, Philadelphia's real options are signing one in the draft, or drafting one, or signing one here in free agency. And I'll take a look at the list here. We did this a couple of days ago. There are names. Now, the name you're not going to see on this list is Jalen Mills. I'm not quite sure why he hasn't made it onto the official free agent list yet, but Mills is technically a free agent. He has played safety, corner safety, back and forth. He wants to play safety again. Keep an eye on him. We have a couple of other names who could make some sense. Maybe a LaMarcus Joyner if you want to go old, a Jonathan Abram if you want to go very, very young. Obviously, Rodney McLeod if you want to go familiarity. Keanu Neal, Eric Harris. There are names that you would recognize, but none of which are going to be as good as CJ Gardner-Johnson. And that, to me, is the real, I think, difficulty in swallowing this tonight, because I feel like there was a time when the Eagles were so close to just getting him back and then reuniting the entire secondary. It was going to be all the guys minus Marcus Epps, and now they lose CJ Gardner-Johnson. Now, in terms of safeties in the draft, there are plenty of good ones. Now, Howie doesn't like to draft safeties, but maybe desperate times call for desperate measures, and so here are your options. Brian Branch, the safety out of Alabama, is PFF's highest-ranked safety. Very, very high ceiling is what they talk about. He's a 9th overall player on the big board, an option at 10, although it just seems so un-Howie to go with a safety at 10. Antonio Johnson, maybe an option at 30. Texas A&M safety, 32 on the big board. And then you have a couple of options here in the second round who could make some sense in terms of Sidney Brown out of Illinois, Jamie Robinson out of Florida State, Jordan Battle out of Alabama, Christopher Smith from Georgia. But after that, it starts to kind of fall back a little bit. You'll see Brandon Joseph's name mentioned as maybe a third-round option, maybe late second-round option for Philadelphia, but there really isn't a safety besides these first two in Brian Branch and Antonio Johnson, who would make Eagle fans, I think, happy overall in terms of like, oh my gosh, we got somebody who's really good and can replace CJ Gardner-Johnson. And so as you think about this move, I just want everyone to go ahead and understand that Philadelphia is in a spot where they're going to be okay. They obviously still have a very, very good secondary, but they might have a weaker backside of the secondary, a weaker overall, two starting safety spots than we originally thought. I think a lot of pressure, a ton of pressure, is going to come down to how good Reed Blankenship is. 100%. Reed Blankenship has got to step up this year. He's got to be a very, very good safety, being someone who came out undrafted and wasn't supposed to be really playing at all, because you don't believe in Kayvon Wallace if you're an Eagle fan, really, because Kayvon Wallace has not shown much. But again, to put a bow on the situation with C.J. Gardner-Johnson, don't sit back and say, oh my gosh, Philadelphia couldn't pay him $8 million. That's ridiculous. Philly clearly could, but I think a bridge was burned early in this process, hence why it took till Sunday night at 9:35 Eastern time for the deal to be reached, and Philly wasn't able to remend that bridge. Gardner-Johnson got upset, and he's going to be a Detroit Lion. Congrats to the Lions. Best of luck to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. It's just hard to see a young safety with 6 interceptions on a really cheap one-year deal come over from being traded, love the city, ball out, and then be let go. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Give me thumbs up for the news coming out, but also your thoughts. I'm going to be reading the comments as I go to bed here. I'm very curious to see where you guys are at on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, I was going to mention Seumalo tomorrow, but we'll at least hit it here because he's the final Eagle piece that has left the roost, if you will. No pun intended there, as the Pittsburgh Steelers have signed him to a pretty cheap deal. Quote, Pittsburgh Steelers continue to make moves in free agency, signing Isaac Seumalo to a 3-year deal. This comes from Jordan Schultz. 3-year deal with the Steelers. Sources stay at the Score. One of the best guards in free agency, revered as a smart and tough player. And so Seumalo is gone. Not necessarily a massive surprise, but a surprise that he took so long and he didn't get as much money as I thought that he would. And so this obviously indicates that Cam Jurgens is now going to be the starting right guard of the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a much lesser blow than C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I know Elliot Shore-Parks of 94.1 WIP the past couple of days has been clamoring on his Twitter account that Isaac Seumalo is more important than C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but the difference is you have a potential second-round draft pick, future All-Pro in Cam Jurgens, who can slide right into right guard, no problem, versus Kayvon Wallace and Reed Blankenship behind C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Oh, boy. Okay. Now, again, before you get all super upset, and I'm upset too. I wanted CJ to come back. I thought he should be an Eagle for the rest of his career. I mean, we all can agree on that. You have to at least acknowledge the fact that Philadelphia kept James Bradbury, they kept Darius Slay, they kept Fletcher Cox, they kept Brandon Graham, they kept the leaders of this defense together, and they have 2 first-round draft picks, which hopefully they can plug the missing holes. They might need a linebacker, they need a safety right now, and they could use another pass rusher, maybe a D tackle or a DN. Take your pick. But you have to trust Howie in the process, because going into free agency, we all said, oh, if it's just C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they lose everybody else, we're going to be okay. That'll just please at least get one of them. And instead, they got 2 All-Pro, one of the best starting cornerback duos in the National Football League, and then some other veteran players, one of which coming off his best career as an Eagle in Brandon Graham, to all come back to Philadelphia on a discounted price. So Howie has been making moves. I just think we're going to see tomorrow, we're going to see a tweet where the Eagles lowballed him, disrespected CJ, and he was upset from here on out. So, plenty more stuff happening this week. Wednesday Live Link, myself, Josh Davis, got a big announcement later on this week as well. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. Thumbs up for a sad show, but a show nonetheless. I'm Thomas Mods. This is